Jamaica excels doing the same processes when compared to all the other regions that I just mentioned. That can only be attributed to our people. Now, there's some obvious things. We speak clearly. Everybody loves our accent, right? So think about a bad situation that you're calling about on the phone, and you meet the Jamaican accent. You know what's asked typically? Oh, wow, do you know Usain Bolt? Or, oh, I was in Jamaica on vacation. And obviously, the result of that is a much more tenable and positive situation. The exposure to the North American and European culture, which I must give credit to the diaspora for. When I was about 6, I remember getting barrels from overseas, right? And in those barrels were products that were consumed in the US. And because of that affinity with the products, for the companies that we're serving today, we're able to better connect, to identify with the products and sell them better. Let me give you a practical example. Many years ago, I was launching a gym product in the Philippines. I was launching the same product in Jamaica. In the Philippines, I had to be teaching people what a dumbbell was because culturally, it's not something that's familiar. In Jamaica, we know what a dumbbell is, right? So the learning curve is obviously shorter. And last but not least, we're a business and a vacation destination. Very few territories on this globe can claim that. Now, what is the potential? Everybody has been asking recently, oh, the government now has this as a priority. Is it able to deliver the results that are being talked about? Let me put it into perspective with this one slide. AT&T outsources 100,000 jobs globally. And we're not talking about basic call centers, because that's another misconception. We're talking about tech support all the way up from when it comes to value-added services. We have 2,000 of those 100,000 jobs in Jamaica. So just to show you the potential of the industry. And I'm not talking about the Amazons and all the other companies I mentioned are the top 10 on the Forbes 500 list. The industry does have the potential to double in 5 years. Now, my numbers are a little bit conservative. You know why? It's what I'm going to talk about next. We cannot continue to bring in BPOs that are focusing on low-end jobs that will become obsolete in another 5 years. In order to move up the value chain, we have to identify those BPO companies that are aligned with us on that, and that is why the growth, in my estimate, is a little bit more conservative than most. Now, what is standing in our way? There are a few factors, but you know what the beauty of it is? Most of those factors are within our control. I heard a comment made earlier that the diaspora has qualified individuals that could bring value locally, and there's so much value to that, because one of the things that I struggle with personally in my organization, while we pay comparable salaries at many of our leadership levels to our US counterparts, is the good talent available at the leadership level. We have to make sure that we're building up our talent pool to meet what's coming where this industry is concerned. There are some basic ones: infrastructure, facility, telecom. We need to make sure those things are in place. We have a solid baseline now. I heard talks of Six Sigma earlier. We have achieved Six Sigma uptime since we have been in operations in Jamaica, and give credit to our infrastructure for that. The Trump factor. I often hear, okay, now that the President of the United States is against this industry, which is the perception, will it last the test of time? Go back and look at the last 3 candidates and the last 3 presidents. They had to be against it. If they weren't, they wouldn't seem nationalistic, right? So that's a given. Now, can any president bring back 100,000 jobs that they're currently paying anywhere from $2 to $5 per hour to a market or a country where you're now having to pay $12 to $14? That tends to break the economy. So it's something that's less probable, but you know everything is possible, so we won't rule it out. And we need favorable economic policies. Now, I deliberately left out two on that slide, and it's the two that are outside of our control. But we need to take a lead in making sure we're preparing for it. And that's RPA, which is robotics, and AI, which is artificial intelligence. And I'll speak about that briefly, and then I'll go into my wrap-up. Now, the biggest industry threats for us right now is RPA, which is robotics. And defined quickly, it's software that automates manual, repetitive, and rule-based human activity. AI, on the other side, is a little bit more advanced because this one can actually learn as it's going along. So the perception of what I do in my industry is call center. By the way, about 50% of my employees don't handle a phone, so that's a misconception in itself. But there are some BPOs which 100% of what they do is on that lower level. I can tell you off the bat that every forecast that has come out confirms that 50% of those jobs will be eliminated in the next 5 years. But jobs in general are, and I don't like to use the term at risk because I see so many advantages to this, but we have to face reality when you now have carless drivers, right? Think about the number of drivers that are going to be out of work. Think driverless cars. I'm sorry. You know what, guys? I have 7 minutes to work with, and I'm trying to pack it in. So please pardon those errors. Thank you. But I'm glad you interpreted it well. So we have carless drivers. We have we have driverless cars. Thank you. And we have software or apps that you use to scan your retina now, and it can diagnose eye disease. This is where we're going. So jobs in general, they're forecasting 30% of the jobs that are relevant today will be irrelevant in another 5 years. So what do we have to do? We have to get ahead of it. My company in particular, Sutherland Global Services, we have opened labs over the last few years in London and in San Francisco. And the sole purpose of these labs are to get ahead with avatar robotics and artificial intelligence. And there's many advantages to doing this. But we need to figure out very quickly what the strategies are to sustain the industry so that those growth numbers that we're talking about are not compromised. And briefly put, as I wrap up, the first strategy is to move up the value chain. Processes that are highly variable, requires decision-making and judgment, cannot be easily replaced by robotics or artificial intelligence. I must admit that quite a few of the BPOs here have at least 50% of their processes there, but they too are looking for more, what we call the jobs with more stickiness. We have a lot of F&A, finance and accounting, HRO, legal outsourcing, IT outsourcing, tech support. Those things cannot easily be replaced by AI or robotics. We need to develop our human capital. I spoke to that. I won't go into a lot of details, but if this is the industry that's going to create the type of growth that we're talking about, we need to get the educational system behind us. We're partnering with HEART on several initiatives to revamp recruiting and training, and those are in progress. And we have recently launched an associate degree with the Portmore Community College, and we also signed a MOU with the University of the West Indies looking at degrees in BPO. Because for me, hiring local leadership, and I want to keep leadership Jamaican, which can, as I heard earlier, satisfy this higher level that our clients are used to, like the Microsoft, the Amazons, the Walmart, the Googles of the world. We need to ensure that we're preparing our labor force to do so, not just at the entry level, but also at the management level. We need to look beyond the obvious outsourcing and start talking about fulfillment. Everybody knows who Amazon is, right? Now, Amazon has fulfillment centers all over the US. We're so perfectly located to be able to fulfill the Caribbean. And we could create so many jobs here if we create fulfillment opportunities here that have shipments for Amazon leaving here to nearby territories. We also need to look at assembly. And last but not least, we need to make sure we're keeping costs down by managing our telecom or utilities and any taxes that could be put onto this business. So in wrapping up, what's critical that's outside of our control is going to be fixed with this quote: never stop learning because life never stops teaching. The only way we're going to combat AI and robotics, which is the biggest risk to many of our industries, is to continue to teach our population to move as the punches roll. Now, I'm going to debunk 3 things before I leave the podium. Is this industry a fly-by-night that just came up? It's 30 years old, and it's been here creating several jobs over time. I've answered that. Does it exploit labor or entry-level positions, and I'm speaking for Sutherland now, compares to that of a teacher or a nurse from a salary standpoint? And what's required is less qualification, and leadership rivals any other local company that has a strong reputation. And last but not least, is it sustainable? And I've spoken to that as well. It's 100% dependent on us. How we move forward will determine how long the BPO industry is here. And because it's the industry identified that has the ability to create thousands of jobs within a short time, I'm confident that the priorities will be placed in the right direction. Walk good, everyone.
Thank you. I want to thank you for that presentation, exploding the myths about the BPO sector and sharing with us the opportunities. In the interest of time, we're going to just ask both, well, Mr. Marsh, okay, Marsh is a resource person then. All right, good. So we're going to ask you to come forward over and to speak on from the Elva Williams Richards, Chief Financial Officer with the Port Authority.
This thing isn't working. Good morning, everyone. I'll just wait for the presentation to be up. But it's great to be here and welcome all Jamaicans that is visiting with us today. It's good to have you in our midst. Okay, so I'll be speaking today about building Jamaica as a key global logistics hub. Thank you. The government, as you had heard before, has made logistics one of its key economic growth and job creation on its agenda. Port Authority of Jamaica, in its role as regulator and developer of port infrastructure, is a key strategic partner in the logistic initiative to make Jamaica one of the main hubs of the region. So I'll just briefly remind us all, what is logistics? Logistics is merely adding value in the supply chain by preparing goods for the final consumer. It's really taking the goods that pass through Jamaica, the things that come in containers and otherwise, and you pick and pack, you package them, repackage them, labeling, you reassemble them, mix and sort, and ship them off to their final destination. There are certain key essential elements that make logistics work. You have to have an efficient custom procedures. You have to have effective transportation mode and reduce, and I would not say cheap, but competitive cost. It is important for us to have connectivity, very, very important. So where does Jamaica stand? And why do we think Jamaica is ideally suited to be the main hub? And I did spoke earlier on about how central Jamaica is. We are blessed with a geographic location. We're right in the middle of everywhere. We're like a neighbor that you have. You know you have that neighbor, you wish you would not see them every time you turn around. That's Jamaica. Anywhere on the map you spin, it's bullseye. That's where Jamaica is. We are geographically located. We have global connectivity. Odette also spoke earlier on about the diverse education pool that we have. We're the largest English-speaking Caribbean island. And yes, we have infrastructure. We have a road network, and the government continues to expand and develop these. Importantly, we have stability in our democratic elected government, and we have a stable political system, and that makes us ideal. In terms of connectivity, on the map global you see, that center, we're really the center of the universe, I love to say. Now, let us look at what we have here in Jamaica that will build the synergy that we require. I spoke earlier on about the interconnectivity. And I would be amiss if I do not mention Caribbean Maritime Institute, a fabulous institution that has been training. If you can put logistics with Fitz, that is his name. He has been expounding this for many years, and we have a trained labor pool for that. Now we speak about, we have lands available. There's Caymanas. We have the port in Kingston. We have the airport. You talk about interconnectivity, pretty close to each other. I can't think of anywhere in the Caribbean that has that. Importantly, as I mentioned earlier, we have our population is within close proximity to all of this. We speak about a little bit about Port Authority. As an agency responsible for the maritime sector, Port Authority has been working really hard over the last couple of years, and we're at a point where we are moving to implement a logistics hub, or commence implementation of a logistics hub in Kingston. We have lands that are sitting right at the port, which is ideally suited. And while we use the opportunity to encourage private participation, and I cannot emphasize how important it is, and private participation, ladies and gentlemen, does not necessarily mean it has to be a company. It could be a group of individuals coming together, deciding to do some investment. The Port Authority is building putting up some logistics building right on the port, and it is our intention to use it as a proof of concept. When we go out, and Mr. Marsh, who is our logistics guru, as I call him, when he goes out to market, they want to know, they want to look at something. What do you have? And so we decided to seed capital it with a proof of concept that can help us to move the logistics thing across. Montego Bay, in Montego Bay, not to be left behind, we have acres of lands that are pretty close to the port, and we're looking to put those out that we can invite private participation in the development of these lands. One, to supply international trade as well, and it is targeting towards our local hospitality industry, because they move a lot of goods. Some of them are housed currently in the US. We want them to bring them to Jamaica. So we build warehouses and so on so that they can store them. Port Authority has developed a master plan for the port of Montego Bay. And in that master plan is to build out 2 new berths, and that is during this financial year. And plans are well ahead in doing that. The government has approved the engagement of a contractor to do that, and we're moving ahead with it. What I want also to say is that logistics is not just a location. Logistics can be anywhere in Jamaica. Jamaica is blessed with lots of seaside, and we have ports all across Jamaica. And you need ports to help to sustain it. We need to have ports in close proximity. And the map that you'll see have ports, identify the ports. There's a port of Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, many ports across Jamaica that can do. And you can do logistics from anywhere, so long as the critical criteria are met. People and transportation modes. So what has government done? Again, that is an indication of the linkages with the population and the business centers. We have a fabulous road network. It takes 45 minutes to move across the North Coast with the highway that recently opened. I want to share with you as well today what has government done so far in Jamaica. We have put in place a technology. We've modernized, taken steps to modernize the customs with the Asikuda system that is implemented. We're on our way with a new port community system. And we also have the legislative framework to support it. The rest of the world that we have will enable us to move the goods more efficiently, track and trace them, and have the kind of supply chain security that is required to make the logistics and effective, to make us compete effectively. Also, importantly, the rest of the world recognizes us. Jamaica is one of the fastest risers in the global competitive logistics. We are at number 10, number 9 in the Caribbean and the Latin America, and in recent times, they have identified us as the 3rd fastest to have improved our LPI. We were at logistics. We were at, on the map, on that diagram, you see that we were at 86 in 15-16, and now we're at 75. And the change is 11, and that is profound. So they recognize us as one of the countries that has the fastest. It's really a process through which they track how efficient and how competitive we are. What are the factors that drive us to make us competitive? The infrastructure, word network, technology, and so on. Jamaica's value proposition here is, just to reemphasize, is that we have the connectivity, the intermodal platform, we have flexibility, we have a capacity to do it, we're strategically located to major markets, and these are factors that a country must have. And I believe that I can say with confidence that we have it. We have Jamaica's taken steps towards a logistics hub. We have a privatization of our port, which was a recent initiative. We have, government has also taken steps with the privatization of the Norman Manley International Airport, the special economic zone, all the things, the factors that government has taken this very, very serious and is moving ahead with it. Time is of the essence, because we have been talking about this for a very long time. And what we have is Jamaica, we're competing, and I always like to reference Bolt in my discussion. He's an athlete that we all are very proud of and has demonstrated that his races are linked to time, and he has done us proud. We're competing with everybody else. It's not that they're waiting on us, and therefore we need to recognize it, and we have recognized it, and as a port authority we have. Now, finally, I say to this, if that we are in the logistics race, and again emphasizing that we need to move now. This is my favorite race with Bolt in 100 meter, is moved away from a pack, and that's what Jamaica, that's what we're geared towards doing. I thank you very much, and I do look forward to the question and answers, and I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A little pressure is not a bad thing. Thank you very much for that presentation. And just to give us context, because I know many of us are saying, well, we're not going to invest in a port, but the logistics facilities creates opportunities around. Call centers require people to live in them. So you need residential accommodation, you need food, you need a great deal of businesses to support these industries. And so while you may not wish to invest at the multi-million-dollar level, there are various levels of participation. And so with that said, I want to introduce young Kurt Anthony Hamilton, an entrepreneur, investor, and community curator, as he calls himself, to speak to us about what he has been doing. Kirk?
Good afternoon. Very honored to be here. As Mr. Jarrett indicated, my name is Kirk Anthony Hamilton. I am a Jamaican-born entrepreneur and investor, but I actually studied architecture. I'd like to invite you all to simply join me on a little journey. I'm going to tell you my story and why I believe that Jamaica truly can leapfrog the world. To address a comment that was made earlier, I think it was Dr. Barbara Peart pointed to the lack of women on panels, which I hope this panel corrects. But I've always had the same curiosity. In January of 2016, I sat in a room in Davos, Switzerland, where I listened to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada make a statement and say that he is a feminist. That statement went viral, was carried around the world. Every major news outlet spoke about this. And we're sitting right here in a country that somehow has managed over a long period of time to answer this question of diversity. Major corporations around the world are struggling with this, but for some reason we haven't managed to package this, capture it, and sell it to the rest of the world. So I'll tell you a bit about me and how I arrived at this place today. In 2013, I had a very unique experience where I went to a summit in South Africa. At that summit, I encountered people like Richard Branson, Ariana Huffington, Kofi Annan, you name it, they were there. And I came to a realization while I was there that, if I was sitting in Kingston, it was very unlikely that I would meet any of these people. Beyond that, I met a group of young people from around the world who are all doing just simply amazing things, starting global corporations, sitting on boards of, Fortune 500 companies, starting wonderful NGOs and such. And again, I realized I wouldn't meet those people if I was sitting in Kingston. One of the most empowering things, though, that happened when I was in South Africa is I met a very interesting group of people, which were the young South Africans, all under 30, who all spoke about the next generation. No matter how successful their business was, they always spoke about the next generation and their desire to empower them. And again, I had the thought that if I was talking to my friends in Jamaica or the Caribbean or even the US, I probably wouldn't hear that. And one of the most important things for me with those young people was simply the fact that they had grown up in a cycle where they experienced transformation, which Mr. Lee Chin points to very often. I'm a part of the opposite generation. I'm 31 years old. My generation has never experienced growth in this country. So talking to people who could tell you at 7 and 10 years old they were growing up in absolute poverty, and at 27 and 28 they were buying homes and building companies, was extremely inspiring for me to come back to Jamaica and try to do something different. So I came home with a new passion and a desire to bring a group of people around me. Initially, it was somewhat selfish. I wanted, I have my own desires of a certain level of success. But then I realized that, Jamaica on a whole and the Caribbean were lacking in this space, and that if I was able to convince these people to come and participate in a conversation here, that it wouldn't only benefit me, it would be to the benefit of the larger population. So we started to do this in 2014. I won't make a long story of it, but I'll tell you where we are today and what we're trying to achieve. Essentially, we're trying to spur an entrepreneurship and innovation revolution through Jamaica and the Caribbean by bringing together the global ecosystem with the ecosystem that we've created here. We acknowledge that there are trailblazers in Jamaica, there are trailblazers in the diaspora, and there are a whole load of talent that needs to be leveraged and taken advantage of throughout the region. But for some reason, we've missed out on the opportunity. And so what we've gone on a journey to do is essentially connect and highlight the best in the Caribbean and the best in Jamaica. I'm a son of the Caribbean, by the way, guys. I always point to it. My family moved to Barbados when I was 12 years old. So in that, we have highlighted some of the best in the Caribbean, and we're trying to position them with the best in the world. And we're identifying opportunities for disruption, industries that are ripe for disruption, for global players to come and partner with local players and essentially make a profit. So I was asked today to come and talk about essentially rethinking Jamaica. and revisiting the concept of what it means to do business here and how do we attract a certain level of investor. What we have done is to essentially reimagine the whole thing. And we're trying to sell the world an image of Jamaica that in some cases, if I'm being honest, doesn't quite yet exist. But in many cases, what we're doing is highlighting above the noise these very specific entities and individuals who are doing amazing things despite all the conditions that I'm sure have been discussed over the last 2 days and will continue to be discussed. And when we put those folks on a platform against, the best in the globe, it starts to send a new message. So to our credentials, as I stand here today, we have seeded over $300 million in investments and deals for Jamaica. In January of this year, thank you. In January of this year, we were seen as making history as we attracted a group of individuals whose control of equity exceeded $100 billion right here to Kingston, Jamaica. What that essentially means is that 5 private jets descended on our airport, and we believe this is the beginning of a shift in narrative for somewhere like Kingston, which around the world, while we embrace this wonderful brand, has a very critical challenge. And I think we've pointed to it many times today, but on my journey, I've learned it the very hard way, traveling around the world, meeting with high net worth individuals, and just finding out that Jamaica suffers from what is essentially an image problem, right? We have not managed so far to package and sell the better side of our island and showcase it to the rest of the world. So what we're in the space of doing is creating platforms that attract wealth, innovation, influence, and big media to our island to, again, help to shift the narrative. And the hope is that we can drive a paradigm shift in the economic outlook of this country that we all love so much. So I'll share just a couple more points with you in terms of how we've been packaged, and in some cases, we've just been very fortunate. But in 2015, our brand was honored by President Obama for the work that we're doing at the White House. In addition, we were recognized by the World Economic Forum at their annual meeting in Davos in 2016. So we are finding our way into the place where the world's influencers are seated and sharing with them a story of a little place called Jamaica that is filled with opportunity, but somehow just hasn't managed to capture it economically, but that anything is possible. So in December of this year, we have a group of individuals already committed to come into Jamaica whose control of equity already exceeds $25 billion. And these folks all operate in the technology and innovation space. So Odette pointed to something very important earlier, right? We are living in a world where there are people whose commitment in their daily life is to figure out how to make a car drive on its own. There are people in the world who are trying to figure out how to ensure that someone doesn't need to pick up the phone to answer an elementary question. And so if Jamaica was to continue on the trajectory that it's on, to an extent it already happens, we'll essentially get left behind. But what we're hoping to do is bring us into the forefront. And we firmly believe that based on where Jamaica is, we can actually leapfrog the rest of the world in terms of attracting certain technologies and innovations and investments, adapting them, and utilizing them to our benefit. And before you know it, hopefully Jamaica will be leading the world. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Kirk. It's critical that we build that network. And in fact, what we're doing here at this conference, people ask, what's going to be the outcome? What's going to be the list of 100 things to do? The real thing to do is to build a network, for us to use this opportunity to connect with each other and then connect with our communities that we live in so that we can create value. And that's what Kirk is doing in his way. We now have Dr. Fritz Pinnock, who was the head of the Caribbean Maritime University, and who has spent a lot of time working on the issue of logistics and maritime training, to come and speak to us. Fritz?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to see all you beautiful people here. Thank you. Building a workforce for future growth and development. I like a quote by Jack Welch which said, if the rate of change externally is greater than the change internally, the end is near. Business Insider have said that by 2020, there will be 10 million autonomous vehicles on the roads in the world. IEEE has stated by 2040, which is less than 25 years from now, 3 out of every 4 vehicles are going to be autonomous. Isn't this frightening? That vehicles that are driving themselves using their own intelligence. So there's no more need for the steering wheel. Driverless cars require the driver to give navigation input, but not needed for the operations at any time. This will lead to the redesign of vehicles to look more like homes and offices, living room chairs, no dashboard. You turn it around. These vehicles are going to replace the millions of humans who have jobs driving from point A to point B. This will be another major disruption. We're just talking a few years out. The focus will no longer be, as I said, on the driver experience, but now the rider experience. We will use cars as a pay-as-you-go. What will this mean for us? No need for this number of parking garages. You know, parking office at the office, you can now change that into play area, recreational space, or expansion. How many prime real estate Jamaica National has can now turn to that. Many people look at the factories of the future and shudder. They will not be full of grimy machines manned by men in oily overalls. They are becoming squeaky clean, almost deserted. Most jobs will not be on the factory floor, but in the offices nearby, which will be full of designers, engineers, IT specialists, logistics and supply chain experts, marketing staff, and other professionals. Manufacturing jobs of the future will require more skills. The revolution not only affects how things are made, but where they are made. Factories used to move to low-wage countries to curb labor costs, but labor costs are growing less and less important. A first-generation iPad had a price tag of $499 US, including only about $33 US of manufacturing labor, of which the final assembly in China accounted for $8. Offshore production is moving back to rich countries, not because Chinese wages are rising, but because companies now want to be closer to their customers so that they can respond more quickly to changes in demand. And this justifies why Jamaica is positioned as a global logistics hub. For us to take advantage of the near-shoring opportunities through special economic zones by being so close to the North, Central, South America, and the African continent, an 800 million population. We have moved from the age of mass production to mass customization. This creates value-added opportunities in the global supply chain, so eloquently spoken of by Lady Elva. The lines between manufacturing and services are blurring. Rolls-Royce no longer sells jet engines. It sells hours that engine is thrusting an airplane through the skies. Last year, something very important happened. An artificial intelligence computer called AlphaGo became the first computer Go program to beat the world's best professional Go player without handicaps on a full-size 19 by 19 board, 4-1. Go is a game that is 1,000 times more complex than chess. It is interesting to note that this computer, AlphaGo, did not work like the Deep Blue computer created 20 years ago. 20 years ago, Deep Blue beat the world's best chess player. This was built to be the best chess player by combining algorithms and then making them know the games that were previously played. Basically, it was just quicker than human. What they did with AlphaGo was to show it just a few Go matches. From those few Go matches, AlphaGo deduced for itself the rules of the game. Once AlphaGo deduced the rules of the game, it started playing against itself millions of times. AlphaGo versus AlphaGo. Matches are now outstrip humans. The Korean and Chinese Go associations awarded AlphaGo a prize. They could not give the prize as a human. The prize was given for two reasons. The first one, it demonstrated that it was a competent Go player. But they refer to it as it, he or she, it. The second reason is that AlphaGo had reached a level close to divinity. This is what they have said. This is saying for the first time we have a computer that is better than humans. AlphaGo is just a demonstration of what you call deep mind. Thank you, referred to by Odessa. Deep mind is more profound than this. It can learn just about everything. In a few weeks, a computer can become better than humans in many tasks using deep mind. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, which are for most tasks better than humans. The question is, how are we going to adapt to this kind of future? One thing is certain, if tasks are going to be automated, we're going to have lots more free time. This happened after the first industrial revolution. After the introduction of steam engine, the cinema and music industry was built. This means that a lot of tasks are automated and people will finish their jobs and have much more time for other things. Let me just move quickly. Let me look quickly at a list put out by LinkedIn, and I like to call LinkedIn the grown-up Facebook. There are 10 skills, and I want to highlight them quickly. Cognitive that are needed for now and the future. Thank you very much. 20 minutes. Cognitive flexibility, that's the first one. Cognitive flexibility. Negotiation, service orientation, judgment and decision-making, emotional intelligence, coordinating with others, people judgment, creativity, critical thinking, complex problem solving. You show me the curriculum of any of our universities or tertiary institution, and if you find these listed on it, I say kudos. We have to disrupt what we're doing. This is the message. We continue to teach content and reward good students who are the ones who work on their own. No wonder we continue to train people for jobs that no longer exist and grant degrees, which the world is asking us for deep competencies, critical thinking, and discipline, and we ignore the fact. Are you driving the change or being driven by it? Disruption has become the new normal. With change, it is always gradual, then suddenly. Well, things really stop happening gradually. Change is now exponential. I was in a board meeting this morning, and a member of my board said, we should just slow down, take time, relax for 2 years. I said, we'll be dead by then. Everything that used to be dumb and disconnected are now wired and intelligent. And you name them. The game changers are also combinatorial. They amplify each other, creating a perfect storm of change. Only one space is left to innovate, and that is you. However, anything that cannot be digitized or automated will become extremely valuable. Humans' only traits such as creativity, imagination, will even be more important in the future because machines are very good at simulating but not at being. Technology represents the how of change. Humans represent the why of change. To learn just in time and not just in case. Not single improvement, but complete transformation. And I close with this. No individual system, but ecosystem. Humanity is where the true and lasting value is created. We will engage, create, buy things because the new way to work is to embrace technology, but not to become it. The future is technology, yet the bigger future lies in transcendence. Live lives and be
less crashes. That means less doctors working on certain things. That means that the people in the insurance business gone out of business. That means the premium don't like to pay each year for car insurance gone. It's a changing world. And I think this session has shared with you some of the changing things that are happening in Jamaica. Fritz gave an overall picture, but if we had time, USRs, each simulators for driving trucks. He's doing it. And so we want to thank him for his leadership in that process. Thank you, Fritz. We're now going to take some questions from us. And remember, we had that earlier part of the growth discussions where we dealt with questions. So we're now behind, and Jampro needs to come in here. So we're going to take about 4 or 6 max. So, Bev.
Hey everyone, I'm Beverly Johnson, someone who's in logistics. So this question is really an observation for Elva. It is my view that the Jamaica's logistics space already exists. When you take the move from Norman Manley International Airport to the economic free zone at 6 miles, you can see that in itself there is a logistic hub. You have the airport. We come along the stress, we have the Caribbean Maritime Institute, which gives aptitude training and skills. We come around the corner, we have the ships repairs man yard, and we go along the stretch, we have the bulk ports, and we go down the road, we have the financial hub, and we go further down, we have the customs house, and we go further down, we get to the port, we get to the aerodrome, and we take around the corner onto Marcus Garvey Drive and Spanish Town Road. You get the manufacturing sector, you get the AMC, and you go down to the economic free zone, which we're long waiting for and we cannot see to becoming a reality. So I would like to say to the government, what is necessary now is for innovation to take place and for you to give us a list of the possible areas we could invest in. Areas like husbandry, port storage operation, etc., etc. But you keep coming to these forums telling us about the logistic hub, but you're not telling us what's really there and how quickly it's going to be done.
Beverly Johnson, a very good observation. A very good observation. And I like the way in which you painted it, but to the Port Authority. In other words, break it down to the ecosystem. What can people here participate in, rather than the large picture that we give? Is there? You going to respond? Yes, please.
So thank you very much for your question and good observation on all the points that you have made. The interconnectivity is there. One of the things that we have been working on is the integration of all these spaces. That's why I mentioned about the custom has to be right and all the other things have to be right. And I think we are well on our way to get there. In terms of timing, an answer recall earlier, and I said that the Port Authority intend in this financial year to commence to putting in infrastructure on the port to exceed the commencement of, and I use the word logistics, to go beyond what we are doing now. The opportunity that exists, I would think that ultimately, and in a very, very short time, and I'll ask my colleague, Mr. Marsh, to help me with this, because in a very, very short time, we're expecting that we'll have opportunities for persons to do investment in.
The observation that was made is quite correct. We have been looking at a number of support services that will help to build the whole port ecosystem to enhance logistics. We have someone mentioned about ship repairs. That is something that we're working on, bunkering. Even now we're looking at waste disposal for ships in Montego Bay for cruise ships. So there are a number of areas that has been targeted to act as a part of a spur of this whole ecosystem within the logistics. But let me just quickly add that, in a way, the government has been doing a lot in putting in certain infrastructure. The road network, modern port facilities. We're looking to look at the airport facilities as well, to modernize that through a concession agreement. The Port of Montego Bay is now in the far state of redevelopment to support the hospitality industry. So there are quite a bit that is being done. What we need now, locals and members of Diaspora, to put their money where their mouth is. And investment opportunities are here, and every day we get interest from all over, from calling to say, how can we go about doing things in Jamaica? And we have been facilitating a number of persons, firms from abroad. Let me give you a quick example. CME, through their logistics arm, is about to onboard a very large global retailer to come to Jamaica. They are now working out the details to do it temporarily, and that building that Elva showed you is being targeted for them to fill up within another 9 or 10 months. So there are opportunities taking place right now as we speak.
Thank you so much. We're going to have to take the questions real fast. Mark, what you're up to?
My question is on what is the status of the master plan? Number 2 is the LPI index we dropped 40, 50 places in our LPI index. And also... That's
it, Mark. Thank you. Thank you. And quick one.
All right. Marie Kelly again. My question, I keep going back to this. I live in Hopewell. I'm from Hopewell, Hanover.
Quick question.
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah. There's a little grocery store that is owned by some Chinese people who don't even speak a lick of English. Now they can talk patois. Now, I'm trying to find out, where does the information get disseminated when these opportunities are available? Why are so many of us not in the loop for that information?
Information flow. Quick question.
Yeah, hello. My name is Pearl Jarrett, and I'm the CEO of the Jarrett Foundation for the UK.
Good name.
Very similar to very similar to the question that the previous lady spoke. I would like a takeaway. When I go, I'd like to know a list of things of what we can and cannot invest in, because it's still not clear when I leave here what I can invest in.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bobby, last man, quick one.
Robert Stevens from Pragma Consultants. We're talking about divestment of the airport. We have divested the other one in Montego Bay. But these divestments have all gone to foreign major corporations. The question is, can we not have a divestment strategy that allows for these to be put on the stock exchange, and we invite people from the diaspora as well as in Jamaica to own shares? So you set up these major divestments where a percentage, let us say 30%, is reserved for Jamaicans to invest.
Thank you so much. Now, we're going to quickly run through the questions. Staying right where you are, Brother Marsh, however, what's the status of the master plan? Good, bad, not. Quick, shout. Come.
Very quick. Which one? Montego Bay? The Logistics Hub Initiative, the consultant has submitted one report. They're now in the process of completing a second report about the whole development of that master plan. Cayman's economic zone feasibility study has commenced, so that is on its way. The question about the information, yes, that is a problem. We have not been very good at communicating some of these opportunities, and it's something that we'll have to address.
Thank you. And one of the conference outcomes should really be to get a website up with that information. And that would also cover the matter of the list of things to be invested in. Bobby, in relation to the stock exchange, we're having a discussion on Wednesday to deal with the stock exchange. And we have everybody from the capital markets are here as advertisers and sponsors, VMJ, NCB, everybody. So we need to, they are hearing, so the idea that you put on the table is one that we should accept. I have to close it there, ma'am. I'm really sorry. But what I'll simply close by saying is that the diaspora has put its money where its mouth is. Beverly Johnson is one of the best examples you find of somebody who has decided to invest in Jamaica. And many persons in this room have invested in many ways. But what we want is some leadership and direction. That's what I'm hearing. Now, I want to thank the panel for the contribution today. I believe we've got a lot of information. All of the presentations, hopefully, we'll capture and put up on the website so we can all get a chance to read it. But what's happening, what this has shown, though, is that there are things that's going on in Jamaica. And we need to get clued in. On our side, we need to give you that information on a regular basis. I want to thank everybody again. And the next session is Jampro, and they will continue on the same theme of investments in Jamaica. In the meantime, we have some gifts. Gifts, can the gifts come? Gifts. Auditor? With the presentation. Go ahead. Thank you for your presentation. Ms. Williams?
All right, could I thank this panel, and then we're going to invite Mr. Don Webby and the Jampro team to join us. Yeah, move fast. Where's Beverly Johnson? We want to wish Beverly happy birthday. Anybody else celebrating birthday today? All right, could you all get seated, please? Ready to begin? And former panel, please leave that we can get the new panel on. I'll hand over to you right away. Ladies and gentlemen, this session is sponsored by Grace Kennedy Company. And this session is focusing on Jamaicans who have returned home and have done well. And so I have great pleasure in handing over to the moderator for this session and ask him to keep it short and tight. So Mr. Senator Don Webby, also the Chief of Grace Kennedy. Great pleasure to hand over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Neville Ying. Let me just check the time. Well, good afternoon, everyone. We should have been here from 11:35, so I guess we are running somewhat late. Welcome again, and good afternoon. This session here, I'll be primarily speaking as the chairman of Jampro, and I think we have a very exciting session ahead. So with the roundtable, we have a roundtable discussion entitled Getting Down to Business, a session that will give you a chance to hear firsthand from three persons who were members of the diaspora and decided to return to Jamaica to invest in our beloved country. We will begin the session with a discussion, with a brief overview of Jamaica as an ideal place to do business and JAMPRO's role in facilitating investment from diaspora members. This will be followed by each panelist sharing their experience of living abroad and returning to Jamaica to invest. I will then, based on our discussions, ask for follow-up questions. So I'm now going to introduce briefly the members of the panel. To my immediate left, the lone lady on the panel, Ms. Diane Edwards. Diane is the president of JAMPRO. Can you give her a round of applause, please? Diane is the president of JAMPRO, Jamaica Promotions Corporation, the national investment and export promotion agents for us in Jamaica, possessing a wealth of knowledge and experience in international marketing and business development. Ms. Edwards is committed to building Jamaica's business brand through customer focus and effective marketing communication program. Then we have Mr. Paul Lewis, Director of BNRS Limited. Paul Lewis is a director and the Chief Marketing Officer, CMO of BNSRS Holdings Limited, the owners of the Pedro Plains, Jamaica jerk sauce brand. He's also co-founder of Cousins Publishing Limited, the publishers of Who is Who in Jamaica business. Prior to returning to Jamaica in 2004, after living in the US for 25 years, Paul worked for Caterpillar Inc. for 15 years, holding various management positions in material handling in their dealer network of the Southeast United States. Then we have Oliver McIntosh, who were just joking a few minutes ago. Oliver is actually the youngest one on the panel. Oliver migrated to the United States of America prior to starting St. George's College. And let me just read that again for you who don't know me well. Oliver McIntosh returned to the United States of America prior to starting St. George's College, the greatest college in the world, for those who do not know St. George's College. He attended Towson Harris High School in New York and later applied while in 10th grade and was accepted to Howard University, receiving a full academic scholarship. At Howard, he studied actuarial science and graduated with honors. He worked at Solomon Investment Bank in America and was the second youngest manager at Mergers and Acquisition. He also worked at Home Depot franchise. Then prior to returning home, he worked with Merrill Lynch Investment Bank as vice president. Today, Oliver is the managing director of IMC, International Media Content, the parent company of Financial Channel, Sportsmax Limited, and Caribbean Sports Marketing. Then we have our goodly doctor, Dr. Kingsley Chin. Fascinating story. CEO of KIC Ventures. Dr. Kingsley Chin was born in Buff Bay, Portland. He attended Titchfield High School in Port Antonio, and after completing passes at A-level, mathematics, chemistry, biology, and general paper, he received a football scholarship to attend Columbia University. Dr. Chin then furthered his education at Harvard Medical School and the University of Pennsylvania. Dr. Chin has started several healthcare companies, including Mantis Inc., a less invasive pedicle screw technology company, and he sold to Stryker in a multi-million-dollar deal in 2005. Flush with capital, he founded KIC Ventures. I think I have to read that again for everybody, right? It says, flush with capital, KIC Ventures. Patients, procedures, colleagues, family, let's give all of them a big round of applause. What you just heard are Jamaicans on the world stage and being best in the world. I'm now going to ask Ms. Edwards, Diane, to present on Jamaica's business environment, highlighting the ways in which the business environment reform agenda is transforming Jamaica as a place to do business and give insight in the agency's role in facilitating diaspora investments into the country. Diane, over to you.
Chairman Webby, thank you very much for that introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the Diaspora and ladies and gentlemen of Jamaica, and welcome home to those of you who have just come in. Having returned myself 4 years ago after 16 years in London, I really feel that word home, and I know I'm home to stay. Well, the chairman talked to you about JAMPRO and what JAMPRO is about. So you know that we are the business arm of Jamaica. And I really want to talk to you a little bit today about how we are making business easier for you. Because we've heard all the sub-stories, we've heard all the hardships about doing business in Jamaica and the challenges of getting through the bureaucracy. That's what JAMPRO is here to help you do. Get through with your business approvals and make doing business easier. But the Diaspora has been really a huge investor in Jamaica, and I mean direct investor. Right now we are working with Diaspora members on such projects as medical tourism, leisure tourism, agriculture, and some of the projects that we actually implemented this year include a kidney dialysis center in Montego Bay, a transformer repair and maintenance company in Ocho Rios, a printing company, livestock farming, fresh produce, a manufacturer, container cleaning, and you heard from Beverly Johnson earlier, and Diaspora is investing in a vast range of different opportunities. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the unknown side of JAMPRO. You know we facilitate business, you know we hold your hand through the business approvals process, but what you don't know probably, because it's a little bit behind the scenes, is what we do on policy advocacy. We really have a very strong role to play in the National Competitiveness Council, the National Export Strategy, which is what drives our exports and helps our young exporters to export more. The National Investment Policy, which I'll talk to you a little bit more about, and the whole Foundations for Competitiveness and Growth, which is a project funded by the World Bank to help our small and medium-sized enterprises gear up for export. But what's really exciting about what we're doing here, and I hope you can read some of this, is that the reforms we are doing to date are really going to impact on the doing business environment. So it's not just about climbing the rankings, but it's about making you feel that coming home to do business is easy and it's doable. So we're making the business registration process easier. We're in a huge e-government plan to put a lot of government services online. Already we have promoted the secured transaction framework so that you can pledge non-movable property, you can pledge movable property to gain your loans from banks. And we have quite a number of loans that have been made based on movable property so far. So you don't only have to have land and a house to start business. You can start it with a car, furniture, all sorts of white goods. There are a number of different assets that you can pledge. We've changed the insolvency framework to make it much more like a Chapter 11 protection from creditors rather than having to go bankrupt. We have made it easier to trade across borders with the ASICUDA system and the Customs Act reform, which is going to come on stream later this year. We've passed the Special Economic Zones Act and the Port Community System. So you are going to see very shortly, within the next 18 months, a totally transformed business environment. Construction permits are going to get easier. Filing of taxes is going to be totally online. So you will be able to interface with government from afar, do all your business approvals online, and come home and just get into it. Our vision of the transformed business environment really looks like this. And we have set ourselves as a government and as a coordinating agency a real powerful set of targets and goals. We are going to a place where we can start business in one day. We can have easier access to credit for our MSMEs, where court matters are resolved in 6 months, where construction permits and access to electricity is done in under 60 days, where it takes you less than 5 days to get through all your import and export paperwork, where you can register and transfer property in one day. So I think you will all agree that this is going to really make your lives a lot easier. It's going to mean seamless insertion into the Jamaican business climate. So some of the reforms on the horizon, which I know particularly number one there, you're going to be very interested in, is the implementation of electronic titles in Jamaica, that's land titles. So phase 1 is underway now and should be completed by April 2018. So I'm saying within a 2-year horizon, you will see a lot of these reforms actually in operation. The National Investment Policy, I'll just speak on that for a couple of seconds because it's really important that we have a total government focus on the National Investment Policy. This is part of streamlining the whole government approach to investment, foreign investment, diaspora investment, because our treatment of investment needs to be much more streamlined and much simpler. One of the most exciting projects we're working on is the online portal for business. So that is going to mean all the approvals, as I said, through one portal. And that is a massive undertaking, but it's going to mean seamless operation for you in the Jamaican environment. And we're very excited that we are able to build our perception. The perception of Jamaica internationally is improving. A lot of people see the glass half empty, but I definitely always see the glass half full. And what is really exciting is that more and more people in the international market are recognizing Jamaica as the first place for business friendliness. And this is not from us. This is an award that we won through FDI Intelligence in their article, Island Economies of the Future. They did a survey, and Jamaica came out top for business friendliness as an island economy. Yeah, I think it's absolutely worth an accolade. And Site Selection magazine, which is an American magazine, in its Global Best to Invest Caribbean and Latin America rankings, put Jamaica in the top 10 in the total number of investment projects in Latin America and the Caribbean. Again, I'm just showing you that we are actually achieving what we say we're going to achieve. So for you, the message I have really is that it's a great time to invest. We have macroeconomic stability. We're reducing the current account deficit. We have a low and stable inflation rate, 4.4% in June 2017, and I think this is really an achievement for us, those of us who have been watching the Jamaican environment for a long time. Business confidence is at an all-time high, 137 is index, and consumer confidence, 149. We have an increased demand. Of people who are doing powerful, positive business in Jamaica, and you can join that growing club. So we want to see the diaspora investing more heavily in the new business areas that we are promoting: logistics, outsourcing, tourism, medical tourism, agriculture, manufacturing, retirement villages. JAMPRO wants your business. Do I need to say it twice? I don't think so. Contact us and let us help you to get into business in Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diana. I thought that was an excellent presentation, a lot of information, and I'm sure if you want to speak to Diana after the session, she'll be happy to give you more information along with the JAMPRO team. You know, as chairman of JAMPRO and as the group CEO of one of the largest companies in Jamaica, I can share with the diaspora that, and to my friends, that I have never felt so positive about Jamaica in all my entire life. Never felt so positive. In fact, Grace Kennedy, we are currently putting our new headquarters and consolidating other offices in downtown Kingston
investing over 25 million US dollars in downtown Kingston. And it's so beautiful. So Diane, we need to roll in the red tape and roll out the red carpet right away. All right. All right, I will now invite each panelist to share their experience of living abroad and returning to Jamaica, emphasizing 1, how the investment opportunity presented itself, 2, motives for returning and contributing to the economy through business and entrepreneurship, the challenges faced, the journey of becoming successful despite the challenges, and success tips for the diaspora members thinking of doing business in Jamaica. I'm going to start off with Paul as our first presenter. Paul, over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the diaspora and Jamaicans here at home. I'm going to take the opportunity to wish you a warm welcome back home. I remember that day when it happened for me. I'm going to just tell you my story, and I don't have a presentation to give in terms of a PowerPoint, but my story started when I left Jamaica at 16 years old, fresh out of sixth form at Manchester High School, on my way to university in America. After studying aviation and business at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Florida, I worked for 2 years in New York, and then for 15 years in Atlanta, and then back to Florida before returning to Jamaica. I ended up not working a day in aviation. I took advantage of my business degree and went into the business environment. Why did that happen? When I was in school, they had a little thing called deregulation in 1978, and most of the airlines were falling out of the sky: Eastern, Braniff, Air Florida, TWA, Pan Am, etc. So I decided I was going to go the business route because that was pretty common in my family. Prior to taking up an offer to return to Jamaica, I spent 15 years working for Caterpillar Corporation in the material handling division with responsibility across the Southeast United States for the dealer network. And when the opportunity presented itself for me to come back to Jamaica, I didn't think about it. I jumped in head first. After 25 years away, I'd always wanted to come back home, because this is home for me. I was in the US, I was there working, networking, etc., but there was just never that feeling of being at home. And I'm sure many of you in this room, if you're honest with yourself, you're going to say, yes, that is true. Incidentally, this is my first diaspora conference that I've attended. So when I was coming back home, I didn't come to a diaspora conference. When the opportunity came, I just went for it, just like I did when I had the opportunity to go to the US. And that's a point that I want to resonate with you. The same way you went to a foreign country and learned the ropes is the same way coming back to Jamaica for most of you. It is going to seem foreign, and you now have the opportunity to learn the ropes. It's no different to going to the US or to Canada or to England or to Spain or wherever. Our business opportunity presented itself 8 years ago when I decided to leave the company I returned to Jamaica to be a part of. And what happened for me is that I was in the area of food, and I wanted to stay in the area of food because I recognized that it was one of those areas that was close to being recession-proof, because people have to eat. So most importantly, though, for me, I wanted to get involved in exporting. That was very important, because I'd always heard when I was away about the dollar sliding and imports being greater than exports and the balance of trade, etc. And I said, you know, instead of joining the breakfast club or the veranda club to talk about all the things that were wrong, I was going to start talking about all the things that were right and how I could contribute in making them even better. So we got involved in exporting. We don't sell 1 bottle, 1 ounce, 1 teaspoon of our product here in Jamaica. And the reason for that is because there are many players in the local market. And quite frankly, you don't take sand to the beach. So if there are many players in the local market, let's go find somewhere else where we can tell this unique story of Jamaica and have people gravitate towards us. And that's what we did. And so today, we're in over 1,000 retail outlets in the United States. We're in Canada. We're working on the Asian market. I was in South Korea and Japan a couple of years ago working on those relationships. And we're working on some relationships in Africa. So the truth is, regardless of what you're doing, you can build a global brand, a global company from right here in Jamaica. And what better place to do it is what I say. And I think that you, as you go through your time here, I think more and more of you are going to be in greater agreement with that. We couldn't have gotten off the runway, by the way, without JAMPRO, because the first exposure we got into the US market was through JAMPRO going to the fancy food show at the Jacob Javits Center in New York. So our company is indebted to JAMPRO. And when JAMPRO calls us, regardless of where we are and what we're doing, we stop and we pay attention and we try to participate and help. I was always motivated to bring my knowledge back to Jamaica, and that's another key, because we go away and we get all this knowledge and all this exposure, and Jamaica is here, and the rest of the world is here, and we don't focus on the opportunity in the middle and how we can utilize our knowledge to change that. And so I'm challenging you today to recognize that you have the power, you have the knowledge, you have the know-how, and now you have the space. And the great thing about Jamaica, I think, and as our chairman, Don, said, the opportunity here is significant, because a lot of things that we can do, need to do in Jamaica is where the opportunity lies. So instead of looking at it as a negative, look at it as an opportunity. That's what the FDI people do every day. That's what Digicel did when they came to Jamaica. They looked at the opportunity. Our chairman asked me earlier, were you concerned about crime when you came back to Jamaica? And the answer is, really, I wasn't, because when I was in New York or in Florida, I remember when I couldn't walk down 42nd Street at night. So, you know, this myth that the crime is so overwhelming in Jamaica that it's going to stop you, we need to debunk that. If you come to Jamaica and you are committed and you want to be a part of success, and you want to bring people forward, and you want to create opportunities, and you want to help create jobs, you are going to be a player in reducing crime. We didn't give ourselves any option but to succeed. Just like when you went away, just like when I went away. I didn't give myself any option but to succeed. I went to school full-time, I did 2 degrees full-time, I worked full-time. And I graduated with honors. So the reality is, the same thing that you have been doing year after year after year, wherever you are, I am personally asking you to commit to coming back and doing it here year after year after year so that we can have the results that we so truly deserve. In closing, I want to just give you some tips from my own experience. I would say to you, find out what you're passionate about as a business for you, your family, and by extension, for Jamaica. Get into the game here. Don't try to do it via remote control. Many of us have done that, and it's failed, and we have blamed the failure of it on, boy, it's too hard to do it in Jamaica. No, tipping your toe in the water is not swimming. So I would encourage you to dive in and swim with us. Arm yourself, thank you. Arm yourself with facts. Do the research. Do not succumb to hearsay from friends or family. Everybody's experience is different. So educate yourself to the facts. People can have their own opinions, but certainly not their own facts. Just like you learn the process in the country you're now calling home, away from home, commit to learning the process here in Jamaica. The country you left or hear about from friends in the diaspora will not be your individual experience. Go out and experience it for yourself. Just 2 more for you. Network, network, network. Engage, be a coach, be a team player, don't be a know-it-all. And last but not least, last but certainly not least, align yourself with an institution of higher learning, give guest lectures in your field of expertise, bring more people along, share hope, and most importantly, commit to creating opportunities. And in the end, I think you will be greatly rewarded. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Paul. That was really, really good. Tiptoeing is not swimming. I must remember that one. Okay, Oliver, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. No, I know it's close to lunchtime, you know, but good afternoon, my fellow Jamaicans. Big up, big up, big up. Well, I think we've all decided we're going to be short because we really want to have a conversation and really want to understand from you what you're thinking about in terms of Jamaica. First, though, I must say thank you to Jampro for inviting me to the Diaspora Conference. To the chairman mentioned that he's known me for a while. I used to jump through a lot of fences from Summit Heights in Orange Grove over to Banana Walk, where the chairman lived. Richfield, where most of the big men them used to play football. And I would say 40 years later, I have jumped through a lot of fences to try and get onto the big man playing stage again. But seriously, we're all from Orange Grove very proud of what Don has done in terms of Grace Kennedy. So, I am you 16 years ago. I was in London on a very smelly tube going from